If it is too small for me, little wee wee, we're gonna go and get a penis enlargement for him.
Hello and welcome to Lord Lukan. Today we've got an edition of the best and worst from season 6 of Life After Lockup. So sit your little self back with something hot and sweet. Shout out to the family that watch this while you're having your Sunday dinner. Hello to you delightful people. And let's get a recap of Zeruiah, aka Amy, aka Janice, and Troy, aka El Chapstick. Topic: Amy has left a cheeky IBD, or improvised booby device, outside her room, and it's about to blow. And Amy is about to get the answer to the question we've all been waiting for.
I'm about to find out if Troy does have a small or not. I added
Karen turning up the heat at Amy's place.
Say what I do with my coochie spray.
Amy's investigating Karen's lost underwear.
something fishy is going on, but I'm gonna find out.
We see if Karen is okay after all that excitement last week.
Go check on her and stop worrying about asking me, am I okay?
Oh yes, all this and much more to come, right here on the Lord Lukan channel. But before we drag our little feet over to Syracuse, there's some big love to those who have subscribed to Beautiful People and Sweet Cherry Pie to the members of the Lukan Manor. First today we're going to meet Zeruiah and Troy. Zeruiah is going to be called Amy from now on because, well, number one, I can't pronounce it, and number two... So what's the story here? Well, Amy's a good Christian kind of girl, brought up by a bishop, who's got the coolest laugh in the show. I do love a good highly spirited preacher, you know. I wonder where they get all that energy from.
I'm going in the prayer closet. I'll be back.
And don't forget Mum. Yes, she does look a little bit like Roz from Monsters Inc., but don't hold that against her, because she's a good woman and she's subscribed to Jesus with her bell notifications enabled. You know, a bit like you should do with this channel. Anyway, let's have a game of Happy Mum, Sad Mum. This is Happy Mum, but how long will it take to piss her off?
What's going on?
Ready for your husband to love all over you?
I sure am.
I can't wait.
Oh dear. From 0 to Sad Mum in a little bit over 3 seconds. And Mum's particularly not happy about all the idea of all this love flinging about on the back seats. She's hoping for her daughter's new man will be a ministering monster truck when he gets out and will fit into the family's theologies. And so what's of little Troy?
I will call myself a spontaneous person.
Spontaneous? Like spontaneously trying a spot of armed robbery. Well, attempting an armed robbery. I think the ones who mess up their crime should get a few bonus years just because they were bad at it. It'd be a bit like penal Darwinism, which sounds nasty, but I mean penal as in colony. You know, not column. Anyway, penal Darwinism is just where the inept criminals spend longer in jail, therefore taking them out of the gene pool for longer. Anyway, well, that's the theory, but that's not necessarily true in those British jails, of course. So, what of Troy's attitude? Well, here's your standard Lalu candidate.
Women attract to me like magnets.
Humility. So the girls are the magnets. Wouldn't that make him like iron filings or something? Thing about magnets, though, they've usually got more than one pole. Anyway, analogy aside, we're back with Amy's mom and dad who are working on their raving.
You know me be watching. All the way here.
It's like he's forgotten how to do the I'm watching you pointy eye thing. It's kind of there, you know, there's a semblance of familiar movement going on. Not sure if I'm being flipped off or chatted up, but hey, he nailed it in my mind, probably. Did you see the guy on the quiz show who forgot how to wave?
From Church Cross in County Cork, welcome Seamus Murphy.
Give us all a wave. Well done.
And if you think that was special, check out his sign language for going to church.
In church, he need to be at church.
Ooh, throw us some shapes, Bishop. Enough of that. Next we're going back to see Amy and Troy. And the topic of conversation is the size of the weapon that Troy was in possession of.
You know, I've never been with him. We never had sex. Like, what if it's little?
Well, by the sounds of it, the what if isn't about whether or not Troy will be serving up an Austin Meyer or chipolata. It's what if the chipolata is too small for the bun, which must be worse for a man like him more than any other. For example, Here are 3 random people. If we were to be making certain assumptions about the contents of these gentlemen's menus, then where might you order them in terms of the size of the meal? Did you know the average size in Japan is 4.3 inches? Or 10 centimeters, which is slightly smaller than the average American, but slightly bigger than the average Turkmenistanian. In case you wondered, England, of course, was at the top, but I guess they've got to add it. Bolivia was a bit of a surprise, though. They may wear funny little hats, but they're packing enough dynamite to blow your panpipes. Anyway, if you're shopping in this end of the market, you may be expecting a little more in the hot dog shop. Some people might shop there purely for that kind of hot dog. So I imagine there's a great pressure upon young men serving their hot dogs from this particular stall to be a more sort of substantial meal. Although those bodybuilders don't seem to mind, do they? With their little acorn hammocks.
It's like really little. Will you break up with him? So we already talked about it.
Yeah.
They do say it's not the size of the hammer, it's the nail you're throwing it at, which is a totally stupid phrase anyway. But if you've not got a very big hammer, that nail's not going anywhere. Equally so, you don't want to smash a thumbtack with a 12-pound club hammer. Speaking of which, here's a picture of True and Ashanta. Parts of me feel very sorry for parts of her.
If it is too small for me, little wee, we're gonna go and get a penis enlargement.
Okay, so I've just come back from this crazy enlargement rabbit hole, most of which is totally not repeatable on this platform, but here's the highlights according to Moorgate Surgery, edited for YouTube. There are 3 ways to do the length enlargement. There's a stretchy method, which, isn't very reliable or effective. There's even a tool called the extender, and I definitely can't show you that. But here's a little information about choosing the appropriate hardware. There's the medication and yoga method, which is expensive and unproven. And then there's the version which does involve surgery. And, hold on to your lunch. Imagine that the average person might have a front-mounted hot dog. The surgery separates it from the pubic bone, and therefore it is a bit more of a sort of down-under kind of mounting. It may be in the wrong place now, but it's bigger. You're welcome. Can't actually make your hot dog as long as you want. If we could, it'd be more popular than boob jogs and Botox, I imagine. You can, however, make it as wide as you'd like, but then it might resemble one of those, mini beans tins. Anyway, let's go meet poor old Troy. He's in there in jail and we're out here laughing. We were discussing his condition sensitively.
Right now, Zeruiah's sister is staying with her.
They've even used the shot where he's holding on to himself, so he can't do any sort of bulge analysis. He's gonna get this from me all season. Don't worry, we'll be having loads of fun at his expense. Anyways, enough about small willies. Let's go see what Amy does for a living.
I am the chief executive for Project Heal.
Hang on a second. Is that the same Project Heal that lists Troy Jones? Guess he took a surname. As the director of community engagement. I guess it's just a small part. But this thing is actually a good thing for once. And here she is to explain.
Which is a support organization for those who are formerly incarcerated.
One notable thing about the bishop's daughter is that she has a unique excuse for shopping.
I attract money, and so I spend freely.
Back to Amy and little Troy. And Amy's got herself an appointment.
What are you coming in for today?
So,
Well, judging by those things in the background, I'm imagining she's just getting Troy some tools to work with. But aside from that, got no idea what she's up to. If it's what I think it is, then this thing in the foreground might make your eyes water.
just really needed to check the energy, with you about Troy.
Of course, it's a psychic type or a reading spiritualist type person who's here to do, stuff with energy.
You can't make this up.
So Amy asks,
Are we going to make it?
the psychic says,
No.
and Amy's all sad about it.
I'm sorry, babe.
We take a trip to Syracuse, New York to see Amy Winehouse and Troy, who brought a chopstick to a baseball bat convention. This week, we don't get to watch Mum and Pop throw some shapes.
Growing up as a pastor's kid,
Yeah, we do.
Get with it, can't think quit it, stomp on a scoop when I hear funk blue, playing pop pipe, follow her to shoot, baby, just sing about the groove. Sing it.
Anyway, Amy's at Patrice the Psychic's place and is looking for answers regarding her relationships with Pee-wee. Troy. And no matter what your perspective is on spirituality of this kind, it's got value when someone is strong enough to say,
He's not going to be able to be the man that you want nor need.
and this isn't the mystical romance Amy was hoping for. But of course, she loves him, therefore that's enough, and somehow justifies flogging a dead horse relationship. Well, not so much of a horse, eh, Troy? Maybe more of a squirrel? Or, a panda or something. Actually, the male with the smallest hot dog to body size is an adult male gorilla. Yes, indeed. All that gorilla going on, with the arms and the butt. Gorillas do seem to have been first in the queue for butts, but sadly they were late for the penis queue, measuring it at a staggering 1.1 inches. I guess that's what makes them family zoo friendly. I mean, can you imagine if the gorilla's bits and bobs were proportionate to its strength and mass? That'd give the visiting kids something to get therapy about, wouldn't it? Poor little Timmy, watching them swinging through the trees. Daddy, why's that gorilla got 3 legs? It's fairly typical of nature's false advertising, isn't it? You see and judge a creature to be one thing, but it's actually something else. Pandas, for example. They look all cute and fluffy, but they're actually quite dangerous. And there are records of a whole 3 people being attacked by them. Well, one of them had their foot and elbow bitten, so it wasn't exactly life-threatening, was it? What a rubbish predator. It gets its hand on some drunk guy who jumped in to impress his girlfriend, and it goes for his elbows and his feet. His feet. Doesn't go to the jugular or anything like that. Nope, it went for his elbow. Stupid panda. And having seen the photographs throughout the recovery and medical treatment that they had afterwards, I'm kind of surprised the surgery didn't finish them off. I've had to put this in black and white to avoid the red stuff, but look at that stitching. You'd ask them what the hell they were playing at, wouldn't you? He's made it look like foot pubes. Other animals with good marketing as seals. Oh, look, all fluffy and cute. But have you seen what they do to penguins? My God, I won't go into detail, but this tells you a bit more. See, mates with them in different ways. Enough of that. I was saying that Patrice has the strength to tell it like it is.
What about it? Does it make you cry?
Because I really love him.
No.
And she'll shut down all the nonsense.
Especially for my son. Because he has such a good relationship with Troy.
No.
And here we are again. A 5-second relationship that eclipses the child's needs. Number 472. The surprise that all that, but I love him, means nothing to young people that have seen all the other but I love hims come and go. How about you bring home some stability and consistency, and you'd be a bit more likely to bring home a happy child who feels security in their future. It's another one of those situations where the kids are calling a man they've never met daddy. He's not your dad daddy. We all know some men don't do anything for the reputation of men by, not being around and generally not caring. Equally, some women do nothing for that either, by handing out the label daddy to anyone who smashed the bats out your belfry. It devalues the work us good daddies put in. A daddy title should be precious and earned, not just handed out willy-nilly and they're broken, sending the message that daddies are replaceable, unreliable, or interchangeable. Then daddy of the year calls to bring a little small d energy.
Hi, sexy.
Hi, babe.
Ready for me?
And Amy tries to sound excited about it.
I am ready for you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
She does have those Janice tones in her voice, though, doesn't she? But the director wanted another try at Sincere Desire, so Amy gives it another shot.
Ready.
I'm as ready as I'm gonna be.
Meh, not the most convincing Desire I've ever heard, but I'm not really sure if she does expressions. Also, this little patch of acne, isn't that indicative of that little thing that starts with an M and ends in ethamphetamine? Just saying. Not saying she does it, of course, just, making an observation. Amy and Troy, who brought a matchstick to a candle convention. And there's a hold-up. And we're not talking about True failing to stick up a KFC. I mean, how can you even fail to rob a KFC? As if they care enough when the guy rocks up with a weapon. Not exactly the Sanders Army, ready to defend their cash with a blend of secret robbery-stopping skills. Anyway, the hold-up. For some reason, Troy's probation wants to mess around with him, presumably something to do with the producers, and it's all looking very uncertain. But don't worry, Henry's there.
They got their pound of flesh. Let the man go.
Yeah, I'd let him go if he asked. Henry's totally my favourite character so far, and by far the easiest to pronounce in his family. The mother, blah 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 blah, the sister, and the brother. I think Henry should get his own show, where they're half preaching, half private detectiving.
Just chill.
We'll let them win.
First in the chamber is Amy and little Troy, and today we get to meet the man himself. Now, I've been wrong about something, and I think I should talk about it. Up to now, I would have described Amy as slightly warmer than Frosty the Snowman's cold bits.
You're finally home. You excited?
So real.
But I now see why. She's in parent mode. There she is, seeing her man after all those years. But to me, still felt a bit austere, a bit frigid. In fact, the last thing that I saw that was this cold had a Smeg logo slapped on it.
I'm overly excited.
Are you sure? Do you want to be here? If you two don't play nicely, I'll turn this episode around, mister. But actually, she's just being low-key in front of her parents. So we've got Amy and little Troy parent style.
Look at you two. Aww.
Pretty innocent, a bit naive, and, actually a little bit cringy. Vomit. But then you can tell that Mum and Dad have gone, because Amy starts to light up, and we see the childish sweetness and vulnerability starting to show itself. All she needs a little touch on her chin, and she's brighter than a Syracuse sun.
It don't feel like it don't feel real.
Look at her break character. That's quite sweet, really. So anyway, Mum and Dad leave. And Amy suddenly releases her shy girly girl laugh. See, she was all stoic and composed in front of the parents, but as soon as she can be herself, she unleashes the full crush laugh. What's a crush laugh? Well, it's one of these. Also known as the crutch laugh, but it's that giggly laugh that you get when someone reduces you to a babbling teenager. That warm laugh that you can't control, coupled with that smile that all your friends would recognize.
Get by ourselves so I can have my time with you.
Yeah, lucky girl. Oh well, I guess it only takes 4 minutes to cook a mini hot dog, so, that'll free up the afternoon nicely. And she sounds thrilled at the prospect of taking his schnauzer for a stroll.
I just want to take my time with my wife.
Yeah.
But then there's a little thing that she does that might suggest there's a skeleton in the wardrobe and it hasn't moved out yet.
You deserve it, babe.
Did you see that? She was all warm and humbled by his gratitude until he said she deserved it. Then the face totally drops. Now she's a woman of conscience, a woman who possibly believes in karmic retribution. So when she looked like she couldn't accept the idea that she deserved it, I'm guessing she might be able to think of a pretty good reason why she doesn't. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Akia, nice. Well, it's good to set that bar nice and low, seeing as that will probably be the only R that his family compact will be giving her today. Then I know, we've managed to get through a whole Amy and Pee-wee section, but I haven't done a dancing Henry bit. Well, maybe next time. And with that, it's off to Henry's dancing bit. We've got a match of Amy and Troy, who brought a baton to a pole vaulting convention. Do you ever get that gay vibe from Troy? He's very effeminate, and I'm sure a guy who's this soft needed to be pulling a few more things than favours in order to get by. Anyway, enough of that. Watch out, everybody. Mama Karen is about to arrive. Oh yes, the mother-in-law who'll take you to the floor. The mama that'll hit you like a hummer. It's Karen. Though it's not all bad. She walks around the house like she owns the place and inspects everything, but I'm starting to warm to her. She's got this subtle charm.
She's a good mother. I have to give it to her. She just a bitch.
And I got a sneaky feeling that she doesn't much like Troy's baby mama.
I wouldn't have to do with that bitch.
Ooh, I do quite like Troy's mum. Wouldn't want to be around her necessarily. I imagine that was fairly traumatic in itself, but it's always fun to watch someone else have to put up with it.
She just a bitch. I wouldn't have to do with that bitch. She just a bitch. Just a bitch. She's a good mother. She just a bitch. I have to give it to her. She just a bitch. I know she happy. She just a bitch. Be home. She just a bitch. I know she happy. She just a bitch. Be home. She just a bitch.
So Karen goes on about Yana, Troy's baby mama, and this red flag is the same one that the woman in the penis shop told her about.
How's his relationship with his baby mother? She still in love with him?
I feel like she.
Yeah, it feels strong.
So this conversation is pressing her button. Mushroom. Troy. Poor old Troy. He's got his mother chewing one ear off, and now he's got his missus mad at him, and she's about to do the thing that men dread the most.
How you feel? You alright?
I'm alright.
I can feel it from here. It might be, I'm fine, or I'm okay, or if you have to ask, then there's no point in telling you. Those are the words that turn our blood cold.
I'm okay.
Ooh, she gave him a double frosty. Both I'm alright and I'm okay. There's no coming back from the stuff he didn't say and, had no control over.
You don't want to talk?
This is what we refer to in my household as the full bottom lip. Usually this thing is taken care of with some Haribo and a bit of the film Labyrinth. Would you like some Haribo? Cheer you up a little bit. Maybe check out Bowie's bulge. So, Troy's on the sofa for the night. We get a little more to the story.
Yeah, I swear she gonna give you some booty.
Are we done?
Back with Amy and Troy, who brought a toothpick to a chopstick convention. And aside from the fact they need to oil a few damn doors in their house,
Babe.
Amy's giving Troy the walk of, here's what you could have won. Ordinarily, totally no need to waft past in your satin twin set, dropping a fake yawn after the argument, except of course to make sure he's seen what he could have woken up to this morning. And Karen, who thinks that filters are for coffee, is getting ready for church.
Say what I do with my coochie spray. I'm trying to keep it clean.
And she'll be meeting the amazing Henry and family, so they dose her up on gummies. That wheel her off to church. On the way, they're having a conversation about Amy's dad, King Henry, and she drops this little nugget on us.
He sang in the opera Porgy and Bess, and he was the crab man.
What? Henry was an opera singer? I've got to have a hang on a second about that. Now, he wasn't in the original 1959 film starring Sammy Davis Jr. and Cab Calloway, and Porgy and Bess has been performed countless times because of its cultural significance. In case you don't know, Porgy and Bess is famous for not only being written in English instead of Italian, but also because it was played by black actors and dealt with real street-level life. It's about a black disabled beggar who tries to save their love interest from a violent possessive partner and an evil drug dealer, which is also the plot for The Crow, if you remember that. Except, The Crow had some cool bird power and did ninja stuff. Anyway, Porgy and Bess was where the song Summertime comes from. Now, I can't find Henry credited anywhere, but this doesn't mean it didn't happen, and I can't go disappointing you with a lack of evidence, so here's a little clip of what he would have been doing. This is what the crap man sounds like.
Talking about your pocketbook?
Yeah, okay, well, maybe it's the inspiration for Rubber Biscuit, as sung by the Blues Brothers.
Rubber biscuit.
See?
Rubber biscuit.
There is, of course, the link with Cab Calloway being involved with both projects, but that's a rabbit hole for another day. Back to the story, and it's time for church. Yeah, you know what's coming.
Ready?
Rejoice!
Oh yeah, can't beat a bit of gospel. Not sure how to follow that, really. Some stuff happened about Karen being high, but by this time I'd lost interest. Down the yellow brick path is for Amy and Troy, who brought a plantain to a banana convention, and last week Karen was dosing herself up on gummies to deal with the anxiety of going to church.
Took me 2 gummies. I'll be high as hell.
She took the gummies.
And while she slowly lost her mind, she also managed to lose her knickers.
I got a problem because I ain't got no panties.
So why then are the film crew taking these bending over shots? Do we really need to bear witness to Karen's OG kush? So this week they're at church enjoying a delightful sermon from our Henry.
Talk to myself. Oh, out. In I answer. Go. Talk to myself. Go. Out. In I answer. Go.
And it's all becoming a bit much for Karen, who is starting to switch from distraught to dysfunctional every other second.
Your mother's high. She's having a breakdown right now. Like, seriously.
But Professor Troy seems to have pinpointed the issue, and is hoping it won't interfere with the good impression that he's attempting to make.
My mother is supposed to meet Zeruiah's parents,
Previously
but
on
she's having some type of a spiritual attack.
Spiritual attack, yeah, you could say that. You could also say that Woodstock was a spiritual massacre. Look at those poor people suffering. I wonder if that Amy was about to have an attack of the old spirituals just before she got arrested the other day in the, that zoo thing. One eye's in jail, the other's out in bail. So anyway, Karen's having a whale of a time.
Gummy weed attack.
But all this upbeat God-loving is a bit too much for our Karen, and whilst Henry shifts up a gear, I think we could shift a little higher than that, can we?
See, there they go with all that racket.
Off now to see Amy and Troy. And it's a sad day because we don't get any of Henry to mess around with. So in lieu of that, my little pumpkin, here's a bit of church fun. And today, the dynamic duo are off the buffalo. But Amy doesn't want to have her low buffed. Because...
Nobody likes me?
Sorry about that. Didn't know you were in here. God, those holders aren't doing much for her boulders. Allow me to give you a patented bunk bed for your boobies. The Booby Bunk. It's the Alcatraz of bras. There'll be no escape for your girlies.
Nobody really gives a hell how I feel.
Squishy, by the looks of it. But Amy's not happy because Troy answered the phone to his baby mama. And therefore, she goes for the everything is broken, get out of my life approach. Just like she did last time.
Leave me alone, pack your and get out.
Perfectly balanced behaviour. Back to Amy and Troy, and Troy is about to find a bit of profound amongst his thoughts.
I'm in her world, she's not in mine.
And then, my pomme de terre, Karen comes off the phone with Yona, Troy's baby mama.
I need to talk to her because some boy been up in here and him and her having an affair.
And there's a little something that I hinted at a few weeks ago. I pointed out how she flinched when Troy said she deserved credit for being amazing. Then there's a little thing that she does that might suggest there's a skeleton in the wardrobe and it hasn't moved out yet.
You deserve it, babe.
Did you see that? She was all warm and humbled by his gratitude until he said she deserved it. Then the face totally drops. Now she's a woman of conscience, a woman who possibly believes in karmic retribution. So when she looked like she couldn't accept the idea that she deserved it, I'm guessing she might be able to think of a pretty good reason why she doesn't. Interesting.
Yeah.
I said she was either being coy or deceptive. And am I right? Well, we'll have to see about that. But just before we cut to the next section, Karen doesn't want to be outdone by Amy's booby show earlier and puts on a show herself. First into the pits is Amy and Troy, and when we left them last week, Karen was on the warpath after pretending that she'd just found out that Amy had an affair while Troy was away. Whoops. And so they have a fight about it. Now, I'm not one to make a big deal out of the small stuff, you know.
Leave me alone, pack your and get out.
In the yellowy orange corner, it's Amy, aka Zeruiah. She's 32 and hails from New York. And she's like, old news is don't leave bruises. And her opponent tonight, in the blue corner, it's Karen.
You need
I told you.
The Mayweather from the day centre. She's old enough to know better from Buffalo. And her boobies may be asking her belt for directions, but she's on fire this season and packing enough punch to make your granddaddy purple. Well, actually, I may have oversold this a little bit, you know. Perhaps I should dial it down a bit. It's not so much Guy Ritchie as it is lo-fi beat 'em up. Ah, there we go. Cool, pick a character. Well, you wouldn't want to choose Julian, would you? Although I bet the boobs from the gym can handle herself. Or, what about, Despair? I bet she fights like a trucker. You know, mostly heart disease. Amy versus Despair. That'd be a good one. There's no good bloke matchups, though. Julian versus Joey, maybe? Well, Julian would have fallen over the grass on his way in, and no one wants to see this man wearing these. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't do that to you. Well, there's Arthur and Troy, of course, but Arthur's busy fighting demons, and Troy's mum says he isn't allowed to come out and play at the moment. There is, of course, true, but that'd just be a bit unfair putting him against someone like Julian.
I can hold him with one hand like this.
Anyway, enough for this for now. Let me know who you'd like to see matched up in the comments, and I'll read out the best ones in the next video. Right, so back at Amy's house, where the tears aren't drying on their own.
He already know, you dumb.
Well, she's annoyed because Troy had to talk to his baby mama and took the call outside to avoid animosity and all that pesky conflict. And then he accidentally ended up causing World War III in Amy's head. So she's busy erupting as per the last time she got annoyed with him when she blamed him for everything Karen said. Again? And you see that walk he's doing? If I was him, I'd keep on doing that until he found someone else. I think Troy's a half-decent guy. He's a bit simple and probably does some stupid stuff, but I think he genuinely took an interest in Amy's kid. I do think he's somewhat autistic, and I don't mean that in any kind of nasty, silly way. I just think the son exhibited some signs, and I really wanted to think that he and Troy did actually get round to making that T-Rex skull after all. I imagine it's a bit like that sad scene from Armageddon.
Would you do something for me? Would you just give him this? You don't have to tell him who it's from. Just...
God, Armageddon. That film destroys me every time. Anyway, Amy gives us the background to her cheating.
There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguing.
So she decided to do a bit of the old back and forth on some guy she'd met. Oh, bit shinier than usual there. Bit warm in that studio all of a sudden. As I said, this isn't news to Troy. She admitted it. He talked to Karen about it. So where's the news? Well, I'm thinking that this little infidelity fart hasn't wafted away yet.
Troy has made it absolutely clear that we have a clean slate. He said it multiple times.
Note, multiple times? Maybe we could suggest too many times? Maybe it's just more of a thing that you want it to be, and that nasty taste is still lingering after all this time. And anyway, she'd much rather blame other people for her problems, which is a bit difficult when it's your fancy the boys have been tickling.
I can hold him with one hand like this.
Now, what does Karen make of it?
This not game.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell, because once you've bleeped it, there's not much of a sentence left.
This not game.
No idea. Something about suppositories. But Amy clears it up for us.
Either Troy, all of that.
Yeah, so something about sort of Troy, all oh that, apparently. Yeah, good.
You know what the is going on.
I do, sorry, yes, I was just being silly. But the argument erupts into some staunch old lady finger-pointing action.
Stop acting like it's new information.
Cause she just now told me that.
Acting like it's new information.
That door didn't stand a chance. Back from his walkabout, Troy bravely enters the house, just in time to get all the heat from all the stuff he didn't say.
Where you been?
Yeah, where have you been? You're supposed to be here being our punch bag. I mean, walking off like that, like you're powerless to stop all these hard-headed women going at it. Who do you think you are, mister?
Stop playing with me. Here, get out my house. Get out my house. Get out.
Yeah, take that for all the stuff someone else said. And all that trying to avoid conflict. You bastard.
My house. Get out my house.
Listen to her shouting, though. That is a full rage going on. Imagine her going off when there aren't cameras around. Amy is clearly unhinged. And whilst I can see her point, she totally loses it as soon as she started throwing rings out of the room, chucking her man out the door, and making this noise. Let's remind ourselves that she's shouting at Troy. Yes, the only thing in prison that's softer than the soap. Does he need the fire and brimstone for you to make your point? And while they take all the shortcomings out on Mr. Short Penis, bless him though, on top of all his problems, he's got people like me still ripping him for his trouser wowser. And it's Amy and Troy's turn. And everything's going just fine.
No, we already talked about this. What would you fucking
That is one hellish scream. And even the producer tries to settle her down.
Zeruiah, she was making this.
clothes off?
Zeruiah?
I've heard the crew are like that. They'll follow you up into the bedroom when you're trying to get changed, and I have it on fairly good authority that Mr. Mills got rather annoyed at the crew when they followed a very pregnant and very exhausted Juju into her bedroom where she was trying to get changed. Well, it wasn't doing any favours anyway. First to pass out in the corner are Amy and Troy. And poor old Troy, he's got to navigate his way out of this little fiasco. And as we saw in the last episode, his idea of going to the Winchester and waiting for it all to blow over isn't exactly a genius one. Also, I have a suspicion that Karen is currently using the family brain cell to keep her ears warm. So, Troy's on his own now, bless him. The man whose IQ and penis size are worryingly below average. I wonder if Amy is one of those types of people who need the anger and drama in their relationship. Maybe she just wants to have her patio doors rattled in a wild post-argument makeup session. Yeah, well, Troy though. Maybe she needs a Keith or a True. I imagine those boys know how to leave you with a funny walk in the morning. Not a P. Diddy kind of funny walk in the morning. The kind of, blimey, I've had my atrium remodeled kind of funny. I think she just needs a stronger man to melt her. And Troy, who says he's a magnet to women, just doesn't meet her expectations or her fantasy. And after all, she's a lady. And most lady women have sex using this, whereas most men have sex using these.
And like have some type of understanding with one another without all this yelling back and forth. What you go?
No.
Yeah, what do you want to talk reasonably about stuff when we can throw all of our toys out of our strollers and immediately give up at the faintest sign of a problem? Well, as long as it's someone else's problem, of course. If it's her cheating, Well, that's all forgotten. It's all over with. Her overreacting? Yeah, that's somebody else's problem too. But Karen talking to the baby mama and Troy running away because he couldn't handle the conflict between his mother and his lover? Those are all just too much and totally reasonable grounds to terminate a marriage. Marriage, it's a joke, isn't it? A marriage is crafted over time, not ordered from Temu. A marriage isn't a crutch, it's scaffolding.
You saw the ring on the floor. I'm done.
We did. We also heard that thing hit the floor.
Get out my house. Get in here.
What was that supposed to be made of? Pots and pans?
Get out my house. I have been waiting for years for you to get home.
Can you believe it? She chose to date a guy in prison and had to wait to see him. How inconvenient. I want to talk to the manager.
And now you come here, you've only been home a couple of days, you're already gone.
Yeah, why didn't you get stuck between a couple of rocky hard places, stupid? She clearly actually meant stick around and read my mind. And side with me, not your mother. I'm sure he's dying to talk to somebody that's screaming at him, yeah.
What would you fucking
Seeing as all that conversation he'd tried earlier was working so well.
You didn't take your phone, so obviously you don't want to talk to me.
All right, can you do me a favor? Please, stop yelling. That's number one.
I'm sure you'd be clamoring to speak to that again. And if you wanted proof that it's one rule for Amy and another for her opponent, she berates Troy for walking away during an argument, then walks away from Troy when he says stuff she doesn't want to hear.
This is why I walked out in the first place, because I don't want to deal with the yelling.
And Troy's so confused by the whole thing that he's invented his own word for tantrums.
Zeruiah can be tempomatic at times.
Tempomatic?
Tempomatic.
Cool, Tempomatic. Sounds a bit like a bed you see on one of those JML adverts. Except this one throws you out and then chucks jewelry at you. Or it sort of sounds like one of those special Swiss beds that gives you, direct access to the afterlife. Speaking of which, there was recently a couple from Englandland who have opted to unalive themselves at a facility in Sweden. It's kind of bittersweet, actually, because she's terminally ill and he says he can't live without her. So they've opted to leave the world together and on their own terms. But as I'm scrolling through the website, I do have to wonder. Imagine being hired to do the marketing shots for that. Firstly, you wouldn't hire Julian and his branditivity to write the copy, but also, you wouldn't want to be this guy, would you? Okay, yes, just jump in for a few photos. Yeah, how about perching? I could perch just about here. Yeah, no, yeah, we need actually shots of someone in the murder machine. I mean, in the pod. Well, I don't know. Well, how about an action shot of, me perching with intent? No, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just try and avoid that big yellow button. I suppose these companies need to hire in people to play the part, really. I mean, it's not like you try one out for size and then take a lovely picture of you smiling and waving, is it? Oh, no, yeah, clearly you do. Give us a wave, Barbara. Hello. These pods come in loads of different styles, So let's play a quick game of unaliving pod or health pod. Will the thing kill you or make you soft and smooth? Picture 1, death machine or healthy thing. Picture 2, heaven or, heaven. And picture 3. Anyway, Tempomatic. My new favourite word. It's sort of half temperamental and half dramatic. Does actually make a bit more sense than I've given him credit for, doesn't it? Well done you. But straight after that, he's back to baffling us with his logic. Because here he says,
I've definitely got to see a side of my wife I never knew she had.
But then seems to have forgotten that he's already said this.
I just didn't think that she would lash out on me in person like that.
So she was like it on the phone, and he thought she'd somehow be less incendiary in person. Yeah, well, I think Karen needs to hurry up with that brain cell. So then Amy tells Troy to get out of the way, then gets into a position where he's in the way.
Get out my way.
I'm not moving. Can you stop?
See, she was free to go any which way off the bed, but chose to get out and stand there. Why did she do that? Could it be so she could change the optic? See, look at this. This is way more victim-y. Look how helpless she is now. Stuck between that monstrous criminal and the cupboard, or I don't know, whatever that thing is. So anyway, he apologizes and asks her to finger his ring one more time.
Can you put your ring back on your finger, please?
Amy and Troy's place. Yeah, World War III is fully underway.
I love you. I love you, beautiful. You're my baby.
Yeah, okay then, well, clearly it's fine now. Just her going super critical, throwing everything away, then being totally fine 5 minutes later. Totally balanced and reasonable behaviour. So, now that's all over and presumably fine now, Amy's decided to go to Buffalo after all, and Troy's allowed to have his feelings back.
I want to be a wonderful father and just want my daughter to know that she can come to me for anything.
As long as it's not like, help with your homework. But then, a visitor arrives at the house.
Oh, look at who here. Hey, Ghana.
Well, we'll have to wait till the next episode to see what happens there. If someone on this show was to speak some rational truth and demonstrate the ability to understand what a child needs from a step or new parent, who do you think it would be? The amazing Julian? The soon-to-be incarcerated Letitia? Well, this week the amazing mind magic comes straight from Amy and Troy. And it was Troy. Oh, I know, Troy. Who'd have thought it? And what the hell was so damn amazing? Well, it was this.
You build your own relationship with her as you see fit. You don't gotta call her mommy or no like that.
See, finally, someone who lets the child define and control their role in the family. None of this, here's your new daddy or mummy business. Like Amy, for example. She lets her son develop a meaningful relationship with somebody she respects so much she cheated on him, and leaves him every time a challenge pops up. Yeah, way to model good behaviour there, diarrhea. It's great to see somebody say, why don't we just let the relationship develop organically? Good man, Troy. We're going to see what Amy and Troy have been up to since the last season. Well, Amy seems to be rocking the Bo Derek look. And Troy's still trying to get rid of that thumbprint on his forehead. So, how's it been going for the last couple of months?
Over the last month, life has been, what would I say?
Probably something along the lines of... But it's a bliss of the wedded variety over in Troy and Amy land. Maybe we should call them Zeruiah or Troyeria. But the polish on Troyeria's turd starts to look a bit misty as they list the things they love about each other.
You don't let me finish things first before you just like, oh, where's this, where's that?
Yeah, you with all your questions and stuff like, what the hell were you thinking? And what the hell am I supposed to do with that? I can totally see that, though. I imagine Troy takes an absolute age to do a half-assed job of something. Talks slow enough. But Amy's not having that. Troy's a nightmare too, you know.
You take time in the bathroom.
God, Troy and those increasingly high sideburns are dumbfounded. Also, he's been taken aback by what Amy said. But he shouldn't be picking holes in his good lady. She's done so much for him.
I did all of this for you,
I don't
Troy.
feel like...
Yeah, you know, there's top floor flat that she already lived in that they share with the sister. She did it all for him, you know. Yeah, cheers. But there is, of course, one other thing that she did give him.
She's the love of my life. She's my wife, my best friend.
And his boss. Yes, indeedy. As I said in a previous video, which you could check out to see what the hell I was going on about, with that little sort of boxy thing that appears up there, Troy is listed as the Director of Community Engagement on the company website. Project Healing, helping everyone accept love, which sounds a bit like helping everybody accept love. Yeah, because that love guy's been up to no good recently. But, of course, it means accept love. And what do they do? Well, I'm not too sure. I mean, it's not like I've gone and signed up for one of their free Zoom meetings, is it? Hang on a second. So, here we are on the lovely site. And oh look, a lovely shiny Book of Zoom button. That'll do nicely. First, let's choose our character. I'm going to be Jamal. I'm 20 from the UK. I moved to Onondaga Hill a couple of months ago, and I've got a bit of a problem that I need their help with. The other day, Jamal came home to find a man undressed. They ended up fighting, and the man has some serious injuries. The main problem? He used a dildo, and now he's worried that he'll be on some kind of register. There we go. One backstory, one character. Good job. Now, let's see what kind of advice we get. So, when should we book? Let's do it today. 6 p.m. Lovely. That's 1 p.m. New York time. And there we go. I have my own little therapy session booked. Right, let's skip a couple of hours and get to our meeting. But you now join us 5 minutes into the call. No one's here. But, okay, well, no worries. I'll wait a bit. Maybe they're finishing their blunt before they get here. So, while we wait, let's get back to the Joneses. And it's time to go to that office. It's really just one of those open offices with the hot desks, really, isn't it? And what better way to start a working day than to have a good, healthy breakfast?
I don't want you to get too high, okay?
I'm not gonna get too high, man.
Yeah, because every director of a company rocks up blazing a white boy.
I am...
high as a motherfucker.
excited.
High?
I'm on my way to my first day at work. I finally get to meet my staff.
Yeah, he's having a lovely time. Maybe he's one of those spiritual attacks that Karen was having the other episode. Anyway.
Really nice. Really
I want
nice.
to formally introduce Troy.
They go to work, and the camera shows us the Syracuse building. But I do think that's a bit of a Keith Haring.
Don't know anything.
So come into your new office.
Yeah, okay, his office. Even if she's paying for this space, which is not at all like sensory deprivation, she'd be paying at least $12 per square feet per month for this little jail cell, which I'd estimate at about $300 a month for the room alone. But don't you worry, employment fans. Amy's got his job description at the ready.
As Director of Community Engagement, your job is to engage the community.
Well, glad you cleared that one up. I'd probably check Troy's definition though. Last time he engaged with the community, he ended up in prison. Though he feels he has the transferable skills to direct the company.
Running the streets and running the office is definitely similar.
Running the streets, yeah, okay, if you say so. El Chapstick Penis.
You're looking at it from a street perspective, I just created my own gang.
The only time he ran the streets was when Amy was shouting at him. But okay, yep, similar, perhaps. As long as you don't pimp slap Janet from accounts for not bringing in the main bitch money.
I love that Troy is excited, but there's something I haven't told him about the business.
Ooh, find out what that might be and how Jamal gets on. A little bit later in the video. Back to Amy and Troy, and Amy's broken the news that the whole non-profit business is returning non-profit. That she hasn't paid the rent in 2 months.
So, we won't be able to be at the office until I get that straightened out.
And Troy is so annoyed, he's gone and made up another word. Last time we had Tempomatic, and this time...
Hypothetically speaking right now.
Whatically speaking?
Hypothetically speaking right now.
Ah, I see. Well, it's pretty close to hypothetically. I guess I'm gonna allow it.
All right, well, let's twiddle our thumbs and let's play in the bed and let's just not about it. How about that?
Well, go Troy. Seems to have cultivated a pair of balls since the last season. But it's fairly short-lived as he goes for the default Troy move of going for a walk.
Going to the streets in all black and a pink do-rag is not the answer.
Okay, you learned people may have to help me out here. Is there something specific about the pink do-rag? I can imagine if you heard the pink do-rag gang were about to be doing a bit of gang-banging in your hood, you'd be less worried about a drive-by than you would be about your brown eye.
I'm on the street, I'm gonna be like, who's this guy? He looks like he's gonna rob somebody.
For their anal virginity? Let's just get back to that meeting with Project Healing. Yep, I waited half an hour and absolutely nothing happened. What an absolute disappointment. So, my assumption, that Project Fail was a delightfully valiant idea, but a completely misguided one. And now it's nothing but a website with empty promises. And that, my dear Plum Duff, is all I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching. You make an old ill man very happy. Perhaps you'd like to share this video or give it a little like, or maybe try one of these little beauties. So until we meet again, stay beautiful, love to my 3, and you take care of yourself.
Please subscribe now for our play. Thank you.